Hey guys, we're finally back on our podcast. I hope everyone is doing well. So, tonight we're going to be talking about some cool novels. The novel that we're going to be talking about is Annie Rice Vampire Chronicles. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this one. The Vampire Chronicles is basically giving us the a proper origin, well, different side origins to the Queen of the history and the Cree of the vampire lineage. So that is one of my favorite novel books. So I definitely wanted to cover that. Sadly, the author passed away in 2021, but I wanted to pay my condolences as well as my respect by, honoring her for this episode. So the novel is out of a three-part novel, right? It is of the same name. We have Interview with the Vampire, which is the first novel, which the character, one of the main character name is Lestat, and he is a traveling. I remember, like in the movie, even in the movies, um, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Queen of the Dam, which the actress and musician, writer, as well as singer Aaliyah played as the Queen Akasha of Kemet. Now the history of the vampires. The question for this topic for tonight is like, we know we have a Queen of the Dam movie, and a lot of people who hasn't seen that movie, I suggest you go see it. It's a very good movie, but I feel as if it had some parts missing off. For an example, there's a part in the movie where they should have gave us like the history of the vampires. Like, we know that in the original years, Akasha and her king Alenk is the original vampires. The reason why they even became vampires in the first place, and the movie stated that, even in the novel of the same name, stated that the reason why Akasha became vampire and bloodlust, she fused with I guess a 10,000-year-old ancient spirit who lusts for blood. And as Akasha was dying on the floor due to persecution, because she basically brutalized and um tortured two red twins, which were the original red twins of they were sorcerers. So in the novel, they were black sorcerers, and they cast a spell on Akasha, because they basically told Akasha when she was human, like, all you guys pray to is gods that don't exist, just to give y'all a little sign. Like, it's crazy the history of vampires. You could definitely see where they were going with this. So by Akasha, getting beaten and almost died because of the occurrence, what ended up happening is that she ended up dying. And while she's dying, the evil spirit Kamel took over and merged with her spirit, right? So what ended up happening is that Akasha was re-risen, but she was stronger, more powerful than ever. And her husband, she also gave him part of his blood, and they became the first vampires. But mostly Akasha. Akasha turned her husband Enkel into the very first two vampires. So not only she carried something called the sacred core, which is a ability as well as the core race for all vampires. If Akasha ever got killed or died, all vampires of generation will die. That's literally the history of vampires. Akasha's so old that throughout the years she gained a lot of abilities. like pyrokinesis, telekinesis. Um, she could levitate. She could move things with her mind. She has a lot of abilities, and she's a day walker, which means she could walk in the daylight, which is pretty insane. Now, in the novel by Annie Rice novel of the first name of the same name, Queen of the Dam book 3, and also an interview with the vampires, which also was the you know book that introduced us to like the histories of the other ancients. Now, even in the movie, we had Pandora. Like, if you want to see all the history, I suggest, if you don't have the book, you can always look up the history of each of the vampires and how they were. So you had a young vampire at that time during the reign of Akasha. His name was Marius, and because of the old ancient priests that Akasha turned into vampires, they wanted to test to see the theory if they put the two oldest vampires into the sunlight, what would happen. What ended up happening is that all the other vampires started getting affected by it around the world, but the two main core vampires were not affected, indicating that if you ever harm Akasha, you basically harm yourself. What I really love about this movie is the cinematic and the viewpoint of this came from like home. It literally shows like modern, like before there were like pyramids and stuff like that. It was called Kemet. So Akasha is the queen of Kemet. So the history, everything that went down, Akasha basically got married, well, forced married. She was a slave before, and then she became queen. Enkill took her and bride her to become his queen. So what ended up happening, they both end up ruling, but those two red twins, once they captured them and they started talking to them, the red twins were like, all you guys do is shrug your power. But at the end, I'm here to tell you that all religious things that you guys believe in doesn't exist. All these things are like spirits that basically make you guys see like bad signs or little signs that they're gods, indicating that long ago, even on the history that they had, the people that Akasha were a part of, they were like tribes that when their ancestors die or their family members die, they would eat their corpses in order for, so Akasha basically abolished the rule or the religion of capitalism. So she ended up taking over the reins of like more things that are more traditional, like mummification and all that stuff, right? So over time it started becoming more and more like a tradition to like bury their dead with all the artifacts and everything that they were living in at that time. So over time, Akasha wanted the twins to basically revere her as like queen or like a higher figure, but the twins knew that it was all a lie. So what they end up doing, that they end up doing they end up taking so one of the twins' names is Margaret, and then the other one I forgot. If I could find their names, then you guys will see. Then you guys will see what their names are. But yeah, guys, it's very interesting story, and what I suggest in the future, I wish they could definitely make a reboot of the film. Now we know that the part of you know, so yeah, so the two red twins are sisters. One of them is named Makaret, and then the other one. These were the two most powerful witches living in the valley. So they were far away from Egypt. They were like, that was 6,000 years ago, and they all, like, both of them had curly hair. Even in a novel, they mentioned they had curly. So they were ginger, but they were like black ginger. They had green eyes, and they had the witch power in their blood. So instead of Akasha getting bitten She actually got, it's like a spell that was cast on her, but the Makal, whatever the spirit was, merged with Akasha's body, you know? And like I said, Akasha was the very first vampire in existence. So based on Annie Rice's book, which is a canon book, Akasha was the very first vampire. And over time, she turned her husband into the vampire as well, right? This is considered as the Vampire Chronicles, right? So just know that Akasha is so powerful that anything that she could do it with her mind. She could even yeah, so the spirit name is Emil. Emil, which is the person that transformed her into the bloodthirsty. Now, what's crazy is that because of the spirit of Emil, her blood became so pure that anybody that drank Akasha's blood were turned to vampires. But as she kept creating more and more vampires, her blood basically, her power basically diluted. But instead of dying, her and her husband Enkel, they basically turned to statues, which the vampires thought that this was a joke when they put them out in the daylight of the Nile River. And instead of them burning up, their body became like a bronze color. But the other vampires could feel the pain instead of the original vampires feeling the pain. So the description of and the person that ended up killing her was Makare, and the only family member that Akasha had was Set, and her two person that she had as king was Enkel, which was her original husband, and Lestat, who over time, because of Marius, who is another ancient, that's like he is like on the hierarchy where Akasha was, you know, because after Akasha got that power over the years, it was her, Pandora, Marius, excuse me, the two red twins. They basically became the secondary hierarchy of vampires that over time protected Akasha and Enka, because they would move to chambers to like protect you know. So Akasha, like I said, she appears so young, but she is also very deadly. She is actually 6,000 years old, which is pretty crazy. And due to the, like I said, due to her body and the energy that she exude out by creating more vampires, she was able to turn to stone. And also the bloodlust that she had over the years just died down because her husband also lost his will to drink. So they both of them became like, they were alive but they were like statues, so they couldn't really do anything. So it's basically they needed a caretaker at this point, because everything that happens to them happens to everybody else. Now, I'm not sure if in even the novel that they mentioned, like, do Akasha is the only one that has the sacred core, or original did both of them had it? Because Akasha is the one that turned Enkel to the very first vampire, the second consort vampire. So I'm not sure if they both had the central core inside of them, but they even mentioned even in the movie over time that Akasha drunk or killed her partner, and over time she gained all his powers to look for Lestat, you know, because Akasha says she wanted to find somebody that is the same as her long ago, and his song, his violin, everything that he did awoken her from her slumber. So that's why it is important for her to like find the next, I would say, it's like she's trying to crown the next century king for her and him to rule over everybody else. Now there was a time, like they said, there was a time that Margaret said that Akasha once ruled Egypt and basically defeated a lot of people and turned to like make them turn to like vampires in order for her to like counterpart everything else, you know. So even in the movie of Queen of the Dam of the same name of the novel, they show that due to the violin and I guess Lestat trying to reveal there's vampires in the world, he wanted to live in the open, and I think that's what gave Akasha the will to get back up to like find him and gave him more power, because this wasn't the first time Akasha and Lestat met. When Marius was taking care of Akasha and turned Lestat into the vampires, Morris stated that the reason why we do what we do is to protect our heritage, but at the same time, is to protect ourselves from humans. But the stat was like, why would we do that? We're the powerful. We could do whatever we want. He was like, we know that, but there's things that if they end up knowing it, we'll be persecuted and stuff, and we can't risk anything like that. But then again, he ended up finding Akasha that lives inside the mansion that they were in, and Akasha lives at the very very bottom of the castle, and Akasha basically gave some blood to Lestat. So at that slight minute, Lestat became super powerful, and even I feel, even though Akasha has the ability where she could track you and the blood that she gives you, so she will always know where you are. That's why she could just track you down, right? But once Akasha got awakened, all the ancient, like the very first vampires, which created more generation of vampires, was like, okay, we could sense that Akasha's awakened, and we can't just confront her trying to attack her, because if we do that, she's gonna end up killing all of us at once, and they only mention that the only vulnerability that Akasha has, even in the movie they stated that, but I'm not sure if, yeah, they say that in the movie that the only time she's vulnerable is when she's giving blood. But in the novel, they didn't mention, if she's vulnerable when she's giving blood. The person that ended up, killing her was two original ancient ones, and those two, one of them end up taking the central core into themselves, thus becoming the new queen of the dam. In the process, killing Akasha in the process, because it's like a transition of power. If they didn't do anything like that, everybody would have been dead. So she did that sacrifice, but instead of her dying, because by taking the last drop, she basically turned into stone herself. And that way she managed to protect everyone into the clan as well as the vampire generation. So the history of Akasha and everything that has happened over the years, I would love for them to like literally do a movie about Queen of the Dam, but like we have the movie already, but I would say like a reboot where from the very beginning how Akasha became the Queen of the Dam, and how that would could be like Queen of the Dam 1, Queen of the Dam 2, and that could even connect to the movie that Queen of the Dam, because I wanted to see the history of like what did Akasha do when she was alive, what happened, how come, like everything like that is in the novel, just like they did the remake of it, and they find good actors to play those roles. They could definitely pull that off. The person I recommend they could put in the um let's say if they ever make a Queen of the Dam reboot, the movie The Mummy. I would love for them to use some of the cast that they have for the Mummy, especially the one that played Anaxina. She could have played a wonderful Queen of the Dam, I believe. You know, and we just had to find like a counterpart, which is the King himself. But that would have been cool. I don't know what you guys would have think about that. I would have loved for them to like definitely, reference those things, because I believe that movie, as good as it is, it came out like what, 2002. I would love for them to do like a remake or something, because sadly, Annie Rice passed away, and there's not many reboots of movies that are being remade. Especially, the part that Aaliyah played is so iconic. Her role was more iconic than the movie itself. But I feel as if in order for the movie to be as successful or have a connection, I would love for them to like have like a small remake of the movie. You know, I wish the movie could have been more convenient if how they put it together, but you know due to all those things that has happened, I would love for them to like really give us like a understanding of the history of the queen, because that is my favorite novel of all time by Annie Rice. She is one of my greatest authors when it comes to vampire books, because the origin of like Queen Akasha and Enkel and the original ancient ones that Akasha created is so interesting to me, because it's like we will never see something like that. On top of that, like I said, the reason I brought Egyptian times, and we know that majority of the Egyptian lineage and were like black and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool that Akasha was the very first vampire, but she was a black vampire, and she is the origin of all the vampires that we have seen. you know and it was crazy, we could even see that little example from the movie Twilight, and I forgot what the other ones are, but it goes to show like over time vampires are like older, they tend to start getting like abilities and powers. Now, due to the fact that Akasha was not bitten, she was actually merged with a spirit. She has the advantage where she could walk in the daylight and nothing would happen to her, because she was in Egypt, right? And Egypt only had like sun, like mostly sun and everything. So she was able to walk like a regular human. They would not even notice if she was a vampire or not. Excuse me. But like the other ancient ones doesn't have that ability where they could walk in daylight. I think it only refers to Akasha and Enkel. Now, due to the fact that Margaret Makare took the central core and she became the new queen of the dam, I think now that ability transferred to her too. She could walk in the daylight, you know. But yeah, guys, I really wanted to talk about that. I definitely wish they could, create like TV shows, or recreate or reboot the movie. Should Queen of the Dam have a reboot, because it's a very popular book, and I think they would, especially with the technology we have now, that would be a phenomenal movie. You know. But yeah, so now that I'm just done talking about Queen of the Dam and all that stuff, we're gonna shift for thing to the next thing that we're gonna talk about. So, as you know, I've been working on a lot of projects since here and there, and this is gonna be part two. So this might be episode 9 of the podcast. So I will update the name of the podcast so I could put the both. Episode 9, basically the topic for this part is going to be talking about, with the state of, jobs, you know, a lot of people I know now are basically trying to work from home, and, due to COVID and all that stuff, is very is jobs, but the type of jobs that we're looking for is something that's gonna pay us more, because things are not looking good the way it is, because with the state of everything going on right now, we don't know what's going to happen in the next year or so. So we could only prepare ourselves. Hmm. We could only prepare ourselves for the worst or for the better, But like I said, um, episode 9, which will be coming up in the future, because due to the time conflict and everything, it will be a continuation of um probably track and field or something that I'm gonna be, because until I start bringing up more information that I need, things that I'm probably gonna be doing furthermore. Because I know that, if you haven't seen my Super Bowl reaction things, I started releasing more on those. Next week will be the top 4 Super Bowls that I have remaining, and after that I will be covering the Winter Olympics, which I know some of you guys were excited for. So I will be covering that. So today is not gonna be that long of a video. Like I said, we will be covering the Winter Olympics because it just got kicked off on the 5th of February. So we're gonna be watching that and breaking things down. And then we're gonna start working on, I think I forgot what we're gonna be working on, but yeah. So we're gonna be working on like different things about. We're just gonna have bring people in. We're gonna talk about music. We're gonna interact, have small debates. So the next 2 or 3 episodes is gonna be a debate thing about anime, and then once I start switching the lineup of how the scenery things, a lot of things here are gonna be changing, or I'm gonna be adding things in the back. So when we start getting into like things such as materials, what we would need, what type of designs that would be needed in nowadays, like for an example, um, we will probably spend a episode or a topic on, you know, um construction and how certain house now should not be able to be built because things are changing, the landscape of the world is changing, like global warming is drastically changing how the world is right now. So the best thing right now is build something that's going to be different, that's going to be inclined to certain some climates. Okay, so that's something I really want to, you know drill into our heads, like global warming is becoming a major problem, but the best thing to avoid that is like building more things that could create more plants, or using that global warming as a new source, like because some places it rains a lot, we could create something that collects water instead of having energy. So instead of not having lights or anything, use the water as a propeller to create energy. There's a lot of things that should be happening right now, but sometimes your government or government don't really listen like that. So we're just gonna leave it as that. But like I said, guys, if you haven't tuned into my channel, like I said, there will be more things coming into my channel. Um, it's just that I made a list of everything that I'm gonna be working on. It's just a moment of finding, sitting there and talking to the people that's gonna be coming into the channel, what we're gonna be talking about, who we're gonna be, So it's all these things that I'm gonna be, you know, adding, and even participation, like we could add people and stuff like that. So I'm definitely planning on doing something like that, you know. So like I said, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, tonight's episode is not going to be too long. I mostly cover what I needed to cover. Like I said before, I would love for them to do a reboot about the Queen of the Dam movie, and instead of making it just a one movie, they could give us a 3-part movie where, Queen of the Dam or history of this and that. It could go under a different name, like the first movie could be something about Lestat and how he grew up and how he became a vampire, and then the second book could be an adaptation, and then the third book could be like the last adaptation of how Akasha and the history of everything, because it's that movie. I tell people it's iconic because like Aaliyah played the queen, but I would love for them to give us some more depth like they have in the novel. Is I think the only problem we have is like finding the cast, finding the correct cast and finding the dialogue to match with the book to come out exactly the way we want it, you know? For the all my Vampire Chronicle fans, you should know what I'm basically trying to say. We want a good movie that's not gonna be, affected by all these other things in the past. But like I said, guys, thank you so much for watching my channel. We will be back for episode 9. So episode 9, I'm trying to see if I could bring someone over so we could talk about I'm not sure what topic yet, but I'll probably leave that question probably within this week down below and see what we could talk about. Okay? And I'll see you guys in the next future episodes. So we only have 4 more Super Bowl episode things left until we close out that chapter, and then we'll start something else. Now, probably later on in the summer, before the summer kicks off, we might do some, like, at least 3 or 4 or 5 VMA, or even 7 VMA performance that, or I might just go with 10 VMA performance that I think that are great, and then we could just close off everything, right? Like I said, thank you guys. Have a good night, and I am signing out.